Welcome to If People Only Knew, the show that brings untold stories to light. I'm your host, Anna Matson. Let's get started. Welcome to the show. This week we have Jason Raitz, and he runs Speak with People. And I just thought that this would be amazing because in politics, it seems like no one knows how to speak with each other. It's like this crazy thing. So, hi, Jason. How are you?
Hi, Anna. Well, welcome to the Speak with People studio. I'm so glad it worked out to do this here.
Yeah. So, if you guys are watching the show instead of listening, we're in his studio today, not mine. I so happen to be in Florida. He's in Florida, and we made this work.
This
So,
is incredible.
yeah.
I absolutely love it. And I would agree with you. Uh, I can't speak for, I'll be only turning 50 here in a few months. So 50 is like the new 30, but I can't speak for, pre 50, but it feels like to me, our society is at ooh, a terrible warning level about how we communicate with each other in politics, out of politics, in the grocery store. I mean, I've just seen it, witnessed it online, out of line. It's crazy where we're at.
Yeah. And I just want to back up. Like, how did you even get into this? Like, what was that thing that you were like, okay, I need to do this?
I love it. And, sometimes you start a business or you think of a phrase or you have a podcast and you're like, oh, I came up with it. I unfortunately was not the first person who has speak with people, not at them. From best of my research, it was Vin Scully, late Dodgers broadcaster, said it first, like in the 60s. But years ago, as a kid, I have just always, for whatever reason, we're all kind of in tune with different things. Music and sports and, love of that. I just always been in tune with communication. I mean, I went to a concert when I was a kid, stood on the back row and noticed how everybody went quiet when the singer started to tell a story.
Yeah.
And from that moment, I was just drawn into the power of communication. And it's, I do a lot of speaking in front of people. I do trainings for corporations. For years, I spoke publicly in public schools and did assemblies. But now I find myself in rooms where I'm helping leaders improve their communication one-on-one with their clients, how to communicate better as a team so it doesn't slow down productivity. So for me, it goes all the way back to a kid, feeling the sting of incredibly awful, horrible words being thrown to you and, trying to think through, okay, why, what's even the point? Why do we do this? And so here I am, all these years later as an adult trying to help adults choose a better path. And so for me, it all comes down to this. Do I communicate with people, speak with them, or do I communicate at them, or do I speak at them? I call those people at holes because they choose this unhealthy, negative way. And when we speak at people, we're partnering with fear and manipulation and control. And, we don't even realize it sometimes. So that's kind of where it all came. When I started to speak with people, I thought I would purely be coaching public speakers. And sometimes in business, you go where the market opens the door.
Yeah.
And a door opened for me to train a bunch of licensed bankers on how they could communicate across the generations. Because boomers speak one way and Gen Z speak one way and Gen X.
Yep.
And here we are a couple of years later and our little business out of our home studio and office. I've partnered with a couple of Fortune 500 companies. I've done work for Truist Wealth and Flagstar and PNC, and just really trying to help leaders communicate at the healthiest version of themselves. So at the end of the day, not only are they heard, but they don't have to resort to all of that madness, all of the anger and fear and control in order to be heard.
Yeah.
So that's what we do.
So do you think that, during COVID, everyone going remote, do you think that had an impact on how people speak to each other?
Who I think 100%. I think, I think there is good that can come from remote. I think about all the families with kids who are like, okay, this saves us with one of us being able to, but as I'm with teams, as I'm in rooms, as I listen, as I've witnessed on our own, sometimes we point to all the things kids lost during COVID and going remote. I think we as adults lost a ton too, because we stopped communicating. Yeah, we did it over online and we've done those things, but I will take a one-on-one conversation in person
Yeah.
over online any day. And so, yeah, I definitely think we lost some of the ability to maybe approach conflict,
Mm-hmm.
maybe to approach conflict in a healthy way, maybe to speak up because we're just online and we're like, I don't know, it doesn't even matter, if I raise my hand on Zoom, those kind of things. So yeah, I think it did have some negative effect that we've got to step back up and relearn.
So how do you even approach a conversation with a leader that like you're like I don't know exactly how you go about like doing these trainings, but do you hear from like employees like, "Oh, this person has no idea how to talk to us," or anything? Like, how do you approach that conversation that you need to stop what you're doing?
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. It goes back to one of my last assemblies. So I haven't done public school assemblies for a few years, but one of my last ones, I'm in New Jersey. And it's about 800 middle school students in a cafeteria. And, if you want to feel good about yourself as an adult, stand in front of 800 middle schoolers because they'll tell you right away if they think you suck, if and I'm talking to the principal, and the principal's like, "Hey, we're so glad you're here. We've got a giant issue." And I was like, "Oh, okay." Typically, it's like, okay, maybe bullying or, over here. And I was getting ready, and he said, I really hope you can address this today, but our issue is racism.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my, like,
Wow.
you want the guest speaker to,
Fix racism.
like I don't have any relationship with anybody in here, but it was highly Indian culture, highly African American culture.
Yeah.
Indians at this school thought it was funny to use the N word. And this was their giant issue. And I'm like, how in the world? But sometimes we want somebody else, to address it. So I tell
Yeah.
people, I go into companies, I do two different types of training. One is for the internal teams.
Okay.
So the people who are there, who are the account managers, accountants, compliance, HR, the people who are at the home office making all the things happen.
Yeah.
What tends to happen is sometimes two employees don't know how to communicate,
Mm-hmm.
and then that slows down production. And then employee, friend over here and employee friend over here, they all stop talking. And so all of a sudden, it's like, we're going to call HR, and then HR is trying to manage. And so what happens a lot of times is, the person who booked me will give me a heads up. Hey, we're struggling with this issue.
Gotcha.
And sometimes it's just like I'm coming in with the parental voice.
Yeah.
My kids, I have five kids.
Mediator. I mean, sometimes a mediator,
That's exactly it.
like I feel
Absolutely.
like even like, marriage counseling, sometimes
Yep.
you just need
You just need that outside voice.
yeah.
And it's kind of like, as a parent, I raised my kids, 5 kids. I said things to them constantly, but the first time a small group leader or a coach or a teacher said something, it was like the first time they ever heard it. It's the same way. So I try to learn some of their internal language, what are their values, so then when I'm, speaking those. So that's the internal work that we do. We take them through an assessment. Maybe you don't even realize that you are
The problem?
yeah, yeah. You don't even realize, you don't even know that there are some ways that you communicate that are unhealthy. So we walk them through the 10 unhealthy communication behaviors.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of something that we develop. And then we work with sales teams. And specifically, how does that person connect with their client? Because what happens is when you use these 10 unhealthy behaviors, things like uh, you being unhealthy as a leader, and not just physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, spiritually, all of those things add up. And if your internal world is unhealthy, what comes out of your mouth is not going to be healthy.
Mhm.
And I think there is this, we want to say a lot as leaders, uh, you know, be an effective communicator. That's what I'm striving for. Well, I know a lot of unhealthy, effective communicators because in order to get your message across, sometimes you have to be loud, you have to do
Mhm.
it through fear. And then people say, you're effective. For me, I'm like,
Yeah.
be effective, but be healthy in the process. If I don't have to
Yeah.
tear you down, scare you, manipulate you with my words in order for us to have a conversation, be on the same page, that's a giant win. So that's what we do in the two different trainings. So we help leaders identify because a lot of times we get old, like, I'll be 50. I've done some things the same way my entire life. Right? Right? And sometimes it's lunacy. You're like, why don't you just change it up? And you're like,
Yeah.
I've done it this way.
Yeah.
So it's a lot like breathing as humans. We take breathing for granted
Yeah.
until we get sick. And then our life starts to fall apart. But why don't we do the same thing with our communication? Why do we wait till we notice, wait a minute, we're being ghosted? Wait a minute, I'm being called in by HR because of that thing I said. Wait a minute, why am I attacking people
My
online?
family doesn't want to talk to me. My friends don't want to talk to me. Like in your
Right.
personal life too.
All of those unhealthy behaviors, they just create toxicity. And you wonder, wow, this is pretty lonely. Now, for some people, they might be fine with that. But, for an emotionally intelligent leader who's like, I want to build influence with people,
Yeah.
the healthier your communication is. So that's what we attempt to do. We help them identify, we help them create a plan, and then we help them find their voice. Because so many leaders, they just feel like nobody ever listens to me. I can't speak up because I'm not confident like Anna. We all have these things, right? We just assume. And so that's what we do. It's amazing. It's just community. Somebody said to me once, like, so you're just teaching people how to be nice.
I mean,
It's a part of it, but like I used to say in my bowling assemblies, you weren't born with a license that said you can mistreat other human beings. But that's our world we live in right now. Your world, I can't imagine the level of comments you've dealt with and some of like.
so for people that don't know, Jason is not political, like at all. So this is kind of wild that I'm having him on my show. And I'm kind of asking you to kind of like save American politics right now.
I love it. I will do a caveat. I'm not political online.
Yes.
But as we've spent the last day and a half, I told my wife last night, I was like, I probably talked Anna's ear off way too much about politics. Because at one point you're like, oh, wow.
So, how in the world do we talk to people who don't agree with us?
Oh, goodness.
Like,
right.
for Republicans, I get it all the time. I even just made a video about how Julian Michaels said, we need to get out of our echo chambers. Julian Michaels told a room full of conservatives, you need to get outside your echo chamber and go talk to the other side. Like, you're never going to grow your platform if you don't talk to people who disagree with you.
Wow.
And
wow.
So, and then I posted a video about this and my comments are like, oh, you can't talk to that other side. They're all lunatics. Or the other side, they're all bigots. They're racists. They're this. Like, all this name calling. Like, do you really think half of America are full of racists? Do you really think half America are lunatics? Like, go door to door. Go talk to the people on your street. Will you find 50% of them that are these crazy lunatics or whatever you think? Probably not. Maybe a couple. Like, there's definitely, everyone has that one neighbor on their street, right?
We do.
I literally, I have one on my street, but the rest are all super pleasant. So it's just not reality that half the nation that votes a certain way are just, you can't even, they're so far gone, you can't even talk to them. So how in the world do we talk to people on the other side of the aisle?
Right. It's so good. But we're constantly told. It's so funny. Like I just saw an interview with Mark Ruffalo, the guy who played Incredible Hulk in the Marvel movies. And he's just like, yeah, that other side is awful. Like they need to understand it. So it's interesting that we constantly, we hear that kind of stuff. I just saw a reel where over 4th of July, this Gen Z's parents had friends over who supported Trump. And she's upstairs doing this video going, I'm not coming down. She's like yelling at these adults. I'm not coming down because you had them over and they support the fascists. And she went through the list of all the stuff. So it's amazing. It's amazing. Maybe the first place to start with is to get offline just a little bit.
Just a little.
I mean, just a little bit. I'm not saying, I don't think our online consumption is supposed to be a buffet.
No.
I think it's supposed to be, something that accentuates our thinking and our creativity. But I think when we think of it as a buffet and all we do is consume, it dulls our, maybe, I don't know the research, but maybe it actually dulls our sense-making process because, I don't know. I mean, I think about as a kid,
yeah, I mean, you definitely get desensitized towards things. Like even police have to go through like I'm gonna misstate the word, desensitization, whatever. You know what I'm saying?
We know it. Desensitization. I'm pronouncing it right.
Okay, they have to go through that because, like, just like you're talking, like you old people just don't like to give up habits. So, you just become desensitized to certain things. And yeah, that's probably online. You're just so used to seeing all the hate that you think this is normal. But
And the algorithm, you're only seeing the side that, 100, I don't know what percentage is, high percentage
yeah,
agrees with your thinking and cast the other side in such a dark state
yep,
that you're like, okay, these people are monsters. And then you meet one and you're like, oh,
yeah,
wait a minute, they're the monster? Like,
mhm,
they're not the monster.
yep,
Like, for me, I was a pastor for a long time. I never really dipped too far in the church politics from the front, but I could tell when my church, like, I could have a conversation with someone and I'm like, I know they're thinking, oh, I love my pastor because he's a Republican, or I love my pastor because he's a Democrat. Like they both convinced their sides, like, I'm on the good side, whatever that good side is for them. So maybe we start with, okay, let's dial down the consumption,
yeah,
just a little bit. Like, it's fascinating to me. I watch Bill Maher. Bill Maher to me is really fascinating because again, he's in the old guy category, would be in that like classic liberal, I mean, he's been there forever. And for me, I'm like, wow, like he's at least willing to have some conversations to go, okay, this is lunacy.
yeah,
He still, rips on the right and all that kind of stuff, but at least he's having the conversations. And he has, I respect a congressman from Texas, Wesley Hunt, and he had Wesley Hunt on the show and gave him up, they're having a conversation
yeah,
about, these kind of things. And so when you get somebody like Wesley Hunt in the room who, is a established military career, graduated from, uh, what's the Army's version of anyways,
National Guard.
no, the school, the college where
Oh,
elite school where Army
I got
goes. Anyways, so he graduated from there. His brother and sister go there. It's difficult when you're in the room, So I think this, if we lower down how much our consumption, and then we actually have face to face conversations with people, and maybe don't lead the conversations with, how can you be such an ass?
yeah,
Like, you know, why do you read this stuff? Or why do I mean, that'd be a good
yeah.
place to start.
Like I've had this smear campaign against me, and some people are coming at me because they just read the smears. They didn't actually do any investigation into what actually happened. And like the comments that I'm getting are like, you've done nothing for this town. Okay. Um and I ended up not because I don't like doing this. I don't like talking about my volunteer work because I don't do it to get a gold star,
Right. Right.
And so I just created this long list of everything that I've done. And then they moved the goalpost. So it's like it's like they told me stop bragging.
Oh,
That's exactly why I didn't.
gosh. Unreal.
So it's like, okay, but if you took 2 seconds to get to know me, you would know I actually do a lot for the town, and that's just propaganda. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
I don't know how we get through this if we don't learn how to talk to each other.
Yeah, and I think at some point, our leaders, our political leaders are going to have to acknowledge at some point. I mean, you talk about the craziness of the last couple of years. Last year Trump shot at some people on the left celebrated. They cheered.
Yeah,
Biden's decline. Then you have the rights cheering. Like,
yeah,
if we stop cheering for someone's failures, maybe that's a good place to start, especially those who lead us. And I'm not about like, let's, censor people. None of that. But what if we just have a new call to dignity and civility
yeah,
where we're like, okay, we just can't treat each other. So if we model it, if it sometimes, moves up, powerful things can start to happen because then, one of my best friends, I've known her 15 years. I tend to be more on the right. She's definitely more on the far left. And we've made it work. Like, we actually have conversations back and forth about, she'll say, okay, do I get this right? Like, is this what you believe? And I was like, well, no, but here's, how I interpret it. It's just fascinating. In my own life, I'm trying to get to a place where I don't want to unfollow people automatically because they say some of the most insane, dumbass type of thing where I'm like, okay, I'm out. Okay, I don't want to just go to that. because then how are you going to reach across and have those kind of conversations?
Exactly.
But you also have to, okay, sorry, we're getting a little soapbox here. You do at some point have to protect your own soul, your own internal health. And if you have a constant surplus and supply of all that negativity, all that hate, it's going to turn your inside toxic. And so there is at some point where you have to desensitize yourself to it, and you do have to put some type of boundaries and limits. And so, like for me, if anybody online calls anybody a fascist, refers to them, as a Nazi dictator, I'm like, I've actually had conversations with people who were in a concentration camp. Like there is no way we can ever come close to that type of, the stuff that I see happening right now has never comes close to that type of evil. Is there evil today? Absolutely. Do our politicians do evil things? 100%. I listen to Anna Mattson, so I know some of the things that, she's been able to find. But the reality is, like, we still have to get to this place where we're human beings. We live here together. So we,
Well, and this is
there's a
what I
better
like
way.
to say too. Like, we are all on this boat. Okay. If one goes down, we all go down.
Absolutely.
So why do you want to wish harm, like, on the sitting president, whether it was Biden, whether it was Trump? Like, when Biden got elected, I was like, this sucks. And then we moved on. Like, I kept him accountable like I keep Trump accountable. Trump gets elected. I'm like, okay. Like, to me, it was a little bit better. It was like the lesser of two evils type deal. But I really like, health is my big thing. So I was like, okay, at least we can get our health on track probably with Kennedy in office. But, for people to say, okay, Trump won, like, I want him, I mean, even like we talked about a year ago, I mean, he was shot at and people were like, oh, you missed. Like, that is horrible. That we would have had a full out civil war. That might have been the end of our country if Trump was shot, whether you agree with the man or not. Like, that was not good for our country. And, if something happens with the president now, like, we're all going down. Same thing with Biden. Like, he probably was not mentally capable for his position. And our country started going in a very wrong direction. We still don't know who was running the country at the time. Like, it's not good to wish bad. Like, we want accountability, but to wish harm on our country to prove a point, that's not healthy. So,
Absolutely.
any thoughts on that? I don't know.
Wow, that's a big. Well, I mean, yeah, it really depends. I think, for your own leadership and your own emotional intelligence, right? Our emotional intelligence helps us communicate in positive and healthy ways in the midst of stress, in the midst of up and down. So if you're someone who is just constantly communicating through hate, you may want to step back and address that. If you're someone who's constantly hoping the other side fails, your coworkers who you find out voted for someone else. I mean, what a world we went through for a couple of years where nobody, wanted to talk about it at all because it was like, oh no, I mean, when did we lose that? I can remember being a kid, Reagan getting elected and my parents sitting down with their friends who weren't Reagan people, and they talked about, I can remember the conversations that they had. Oof, today families are torn apart.
Yeah, it's insane. So when I was running for local office and I was going around campaigning, I basically did like this like mini town hall. Like, this whole like street wanted to meet with me, and there was like 5 or 6 people that came over all from different houses and stuff. And they like made me tea. They all like brought a little dish. It was so awesome. And we just talked about like what I wanted to do for the town. And they didn't disagree with anything I said. And at the end of it, they're like, okay, we would love a yard sign. But there was one woman that was like, I really need to know if you're someone that would wear a red hat. And because I told her, like, I'm independent. I'm really not trying to avoid the question. Everyone asked me, like, what political party? And I'm like, I'm an independent. And they thought that I was trying to like evade the question. I'm like, no, like, I'm seriously an independent.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, she's like, I need to know if you're going to wear a red hat. And I'm like, I swear I'm independent, but now I've never worn the red hat. Sorry. And like, she's like, I still, like, I'm apprehensive. I'm not going to take the yard sign. And I'm assuming someone told this group of people that I'm actually a Republican, which I'm not. I'm an independent, but someone told them that. And I saw them out. They were all out having lunch and they were giving me the cold shoulder. Didn't want to talk to me.
Yep.
Nothing. Like, wow. So even though we agree on everything, all the policies that I wanted to, go in office and do, none of it matters. It's just if you wear the red hat or not.
Yeah.
Like,
Wow. Wow. And it's such a shame that we're in a place where, fear is this great accelerator of forgetfulness of the past, forgetfulness of what we should be grateful for. I mean, you think about the people. I just saw a stat the other day, Gen Z, the percentage that aren't proud to be an American.
oh yeah,
And
it's like only like 20% of people nowadays are proud to be an American.
it's
And
just,
it was 80,
yeah.
like back 40 years ago.
Yeah, it's just crazy. And because we don't have we weren't in that role to know, what our grandparents did in World War II,
Yeah.
some of those hardships and trials, some of the actual suffering. Yes. Are people suffering? Yes. I mean, people are suffering in the United States of America, but I've traveled the world. I've been in places in Dominican Republic that didn't have power, that didn't have running water.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Like, I mean, this is,
There's
pretty
a
tough.
reason why people come to our country. Like why they want to
100%.
migrate here.
I mean, 100%. I mean, so there's a Christian artist out there I heard recently, and he has a song where he talks about, so many people are struggling with depression, anxiety, all that, but our Bibles are dusty, but our iPhones are brand new. And I was like, oh, like at first I was like, that's kind of cheesy. But then I was like, oh,
Yeah.
whether you're a person of faith or not, whatever keeps you rooted and grounded,
Yeah.
has it become this and all the onslaught of information that's either healthy or not. I am in my upcoming book. Sorry, a little shameless plug. Speak
No,
with people,
of
not at
course.
them. How to turn everyday conversations into meaningful, life-changing transformation. I talk about how healthy communication is oxygen for relationships. Healthy communication is oxygen. So, if I'm unhealthy, if I'm speaking at you, I'm speaking out of fear, manipulation, I'm calling you names, I'm jumping the gun, I just suck the life out. I mean, that's just it. And so every leader has a choice. Your political leader may communicate out of fear, and that's great for them. So you have a choice. Do you want to follow in their footsteps, or do you want to, pave a different path? And align yourself with people who communicate in ways that speak life into people. Because I am so done with, sorry, another soapbox. I'm so done with adults saying it's just words. Bull. Like bull. I've talked with 80-year-old adults who can still remember words that were said to them in their teenage years, their childhood years by their parents that have haunted them for 80 years. No, it's not just words. And so you have a great responsibility. And so choose them well. So when it comes to communicating with someone who's different than you or who believes differently than you politically, again, you have a choice as well. And I think Anna's spot on where she teaches us how to research, how to, look at those kind of angles and come into the conversations knowing a thing or two. And there's this beautiful word that starts with C called being curious. If you're just curious, your leadership will deepen and your influence will grow because you're now listening. You're asking questions. It's that classic Ted Lasso scene where he's in the pub and, Rupert, the bad guy, challenges him to a game of darts, and they're both kind of, using reverse psychology on each other. And then they're both extremely good. And at the very end, Ted just says, it's because of you, Rupert. People like you have always looked down at people like me. But I learned from Walt Whitman to be curious. And when you're curious, I mean, it's just amazing what will happen.
Yeah. So let me ask you how you would approach a specific example, because this actually happened too. Because while I was running for office, my husband was too. And he was running as a Republican, and we were going door to door. We were actually talking about my campaign, but it was brought up that he was running too. So we're having a good conversation, and the guy was like, yeah, I'll vote for you. And he's like, wait, what are you running as? And he's like, I'm running as a Republican. He goes, why do you hate women?
Oh,
As his wife is standing right there. How would you respond to something like that?
wow.
Like, how do, like, practically, even if it's not this example, even
Yeah.
if it's just like you're online and you see, like you just said, like you're more a Republican. So like you see a Democrat saying like, hey, like all Republicans are fascist and like
Racist.
and racist. And you know what? If you're a Republican, block me.
Right.
Like,
Right.
how do you approach these conversations? I'm telling you, I'm asking you to save America. Because it's so bad. Or like
Wow.
maybe we don't even touch that kind of stuff. Maybe we just go after people who are a little less aggressive. I don't know. And I don't know the answer here.
Yeah, there's a level of lunacy I think probably exists in somebody who immediately jumps to, the world is ending, this is happening. And so somebody who would equate that with, they're probably in that camp. And so it's there on the spot. You need to decide, okay, is this worth the energy and the effort, the emotional energy that it's going to take?
Yeah.
So, okay, if it is, all right,
Yep.
then you approach it with curiosity. For me, it's a lot of open-ended questions. So you use the TED acronym when you're asking opening-ended questions. Tell me more about that. Ooh, okay, all right.
Love
So
that.
we're in this conversation. So tell me more. Why would you just assume I hate women? Like this is my wife. Like she's a woman. This is, so just, but you don't want to do it in like a sarcastic, like,
Yeah.
I love women. Look at my, no, not like that. Tell me more. Could you explain what you mean? Because I want to make sure I get it. I want to hear, because three things happen in every conversation. Every conversation you have with another human being, it's like rolling a turkey in bowling. It's three strikes, or the conversation is not. So it's what I meant to say, what I actually say, and what you understood I said.
Yeah.
So the problem with most leaders, how they communicate, most human beings, is we just communicate to dump, inform, spew. And
Yeah.
we think that's communication. But if we really want to connect, we got to understand. You've got to understand what I just said.
Yep.
So it's what I said, what I thought it's to say, what I actually said, what you understood. So in every conversation, that has to happen.
Yep.
So if you back up and you say, okay, I should make sure I'm on the same page. Explain what you mean by that. Like, how would you jump to that? And say it in a respectful tone. Remember, 38% of your conversations, the communication that's happening is your tone. 7% is just the words that come out of your mouth.
Wow.
38% your tone. And if you've ever parented preteens or teenagers, tone matters, right? Like, watch Pitch Perfect. You'll find all about tone. And then 55% is your body language. So if I have a defensive body language, if my arms are, I immediately cross my arms, my brows, like I'm okay. Gloves are off. You guys are going to fight. But if you step back and say, okay, like, I want to hear you explain what you mean by that. Or D, could you define that for me? And that one works great if it's intergenerational, because Gen Z has all these words that they say that nobody knows what the hell they're talking about. Like, right? Like I don't know what they're saying, but they know, skibbity doo and whatever their word, Riz and all this kind of stuff. But boomers have a way of understanding something. Gen X, so just take a step back. So one, process, okay, is this, emotionally healthy for me to step into this? Because that person could be in a level that I hate to unfairly judge them based on their emotional intelligence, but there are some boundaries that I have to protect.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just, okay, the decision to move on. Okay. But if it was like, all right, nope, I'm going to engage, make sure you move through with healthy communications, ask open-ended questions, and just get the conversation started. And that's probably what you guys did,
Yeah, he was just like, what? Like, he
Yeah.
was like, are you talking like, reproductive rights and stuff? Like that always comes up, but like,
Yep.
yeah. So we kind of expanded on that a little bit, what that means, especially too, because like people need to understand that just because you're Republican or you're Democrat doesn't mean like, that person's entire life story.
Right.
Okay. Like there are a lot of moderates And what that means is like, okay, if Republicans have 20 policy ideas, they're pro-life, they're pro, border security, all these things. Someone could be Republican if they're just 15 out of 20
Right.
of those things,
Right.
right? So why do we assume that they're every single one? And because of all that, like they're racist, they're fascist, and Democrats too. Like, they like the solar panels, like the clean energy, pro-choice, all the things. Like it's like there can be someone that is not all those things. And I actually met someone. It was funny because when I was campaigning and going door to door, there was someone who had a cross in her yard. And she said, a lot of people assume I'm Republican. I'm like, oh, okay. Just because like it's a thing, like Christians
Right.
have to be Republican. No, they don't. And you could probably attest that not all of them.
My barber, he's a hardcore conservative guy, was in the Navy for 25 years. And so he's very, very hardcore Republican. And he is just, he cannot believe that there could be a Christian Democrat.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
how could there be a Christian who loves Jesus, believes in God, that is a Democrat? And there are Christian Democrats who are like, how could you know God if you don't care about people? Republicans,
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Ways, yep.
Both ways. So just that conversation and the dialogue, and you've got to. The last thing I would say is absolutely resist the urge to fight. Now, to fight in an unhealthy way. An unhealthy fight is I am matching their level of angst, and if they start getting
Crazy.
frustrated, I'm matching their level. Don't fight that. Almost the worst thing you can do, especially if they're in the lunatic category, is stay calm. Because they're like, why aren't you not worked up by this? I just called you this. And,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, that's where we've got to, we got to be able. It's funny. Yeah, I don't dip my toe too much in the political world online. And so, it's fascinating. But every now and then I'll say, something, remotely. And I look at my, because my Facebook page, I was professional, so I could see the breakdown of everything. And I'm like, oh, 3 unfollows this week. Okay, interesting. 2 unfollows. I wonder what I said, and it could be too much content. It could be, too much of that kind of stuff. But it is interesting how, even the red hat, the story you talked about, immediately signals to people, I can't be around them. They're horrible and awful. My brother-in-law is an African-American, grew up, was adopted into a white family, and he's become a very successful business person. And he's like, the amount of people who assume I'm a Democrat because I'm black he's like, it's just
Crazy.
It's crazy. And so he has some amazing stories, just about all of this and how he's had to go about to communicate. But
Tell him to come on my show.
I think he'd actually,
Michigan, I'm sure.
he's in South Carolina now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he'd actually be great. You would hear some, he would hear some great stories, and he's been doing great. So that's kind of how I would approach it, and I would try to approach it the same way online. Like if somebody, especially somebody who attacks you, to me, that's a sign of their leadership emotional intelligence is not there. Because if you have to attack somebody publicly when you have a relationship with them,
Yeah.
it's just horrible. I've been embarrassed in my Facebook groups by people. I've been, thrown under the bus, and I'm like,
Yeah, not everything needs to be public. Like private
No.
message is a thing.
absolutely.
Conversations in person are a thing.
Yeah. And dealing with those tough conversations will actually bring more ease to your life, because especially if you know somebody and you're like bickering online or you're bickering in the workplace or whatever, the quicker that you can get in a room and at least you may not ever agree with each other, but resolve that angst that you feel, like
Yeah.
that's why people who are like, it's just words, let it go. Like it sticks in your soul.
Yeah.
You remember those words until you're able to process them, work through that conflict. And if they don't want to work through the conflict, now it's a whole different side of the story. But
Yeah. And honestly, funny enough, so there was someone she's not even in my local community. She used to be. So she jumps on my page, like I said, about this smear campaign against me and starts coming at me. And I'm responding with emotional intelligence, calm. And I'm like, okay, let me tell you this. And then eventually she responds, and it's just, she says that I'm the downfall of my husband. And I couldn't help but laugh. I really could not help myself, because at that point I knew that this is so far out of the universe.
Yeah.
Like this is nothing about me at this
Yeah.
point. Like it really is not. Like she's just looking to try to hurt me.
Yeah.
And that is her only goal. Like, it's not logical.
Yeah.
So it's like, do I keep engaging or do I walk away? And so I made a TikTok laughing at her. That was like the only because it was so Looney Tunes. It's like
Yeah.
these people are not serious. People who actually are curious, like you talked about, they don't talk like that. They're just like, okay, let's get to the policy. Let's get to the facts. Not, try to say like our marriage is awful or something.
Yeah, you're just a monster. Yeah.
Like,
No.
and my marriage is great, by the way. Okay. Like I said in the video, I said there are a million problems in this world, and my marriage is not one of them. It's just like, be serious. Like, if you want to be taken seriously, then act seriously.
Right.
And things like that, just, they don't matter. They don't. And, if you are someone that is actually taking comments like that to heart, you need to stop. And like, I know it's not just as easy as like, just stop like that, but like, it's a practice. You have to practice it. When I first started getting involved in politics, I took things to heart. And it really is like, the more you go through it, the easier it gets. So just please, like, it's like your affirmations in the morning and stuff. Like, like you find I find my worth in Jesus. So like, I don't need someone to tell me that I'm the downfall.
Yep.
Like, because I know where my worth comes
Yep.
from, and it's not from this random lady online.
Yeah. And you have to expect some level of lunacy if you're going to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
Anytime it happens. So for me, in a much smaller world, I've been trying to grow my presence on social media because my message is, hey, there's a different way. Choose this way, communicate this way, stop, you don't have to communicate this way. Let's change lives together, all that kind of stuff. So I'm like, okay, it's a pretty positive message. But there have been times where I'm like, oh, if I just got a little bit more controversial, my channels would grow quicker. And okay, maybe that speaks to, my leadership level and stop needed to care about them growing and all that. But I'm like, I think I have a positive message. More people need to hear this. And I'm not just going to pay for the advertising. I want it to grow and, more people to grab hold of it. But when I started speaking with people about 6 months in, I emailed a bunch of friends and I just said, hey, it would be huge if you would like our pages, if you would follow along, even if you just took 10 seconds a week and liked a post here and there, because it really does help get things going. If the content sucks, don't worry about it. Don't do anything. But if it's something that's helpful, every time I've asked people to do that, I lose. I lose connections. I lose, like, I'm like, I had 4.9 thousand friends, and now I'm like, why would somebody, I'm like,
Wow.
but I had to learn how to get through that level of rejection.
Wow.
Because the more I'm reading about life and success, is the better you're able to handle that rejection, the better doors you're going to be able to walk through. And so I was like, okay, I've got to. On one end, I would never do that. I get asked by friends all the time, like, hey, I just wrote a powerful post. Would you give it a like?
Yeah.
Sure. I have no problem. I will subscribe to your channel. I will follow. I will, because I know how hard it is to build something from nothing.
Yeah.
So why do we have to be like incredible tools to each other sometimes? I don't know.
Wow. Yeah, that's shocking. Anytime people have asked me, I'm like, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
As long as it's something I agree with.
Yeah, if it's horrible, I'm like, no.
Yeah. But especially like when I have friends, like even like the smear campaign stuff, like they've asked me to share stuff, and I'm like, hey, can you share this video of me clearing my name? And they're like, of course. Like,
Yeah.
And then I was like so taken back by the response. I had so many people reach out to me saying like, are you okay? Like, especially when people have been through a smear campaign, they were like, I know how hard this is.
Yep.
Because like
Yep.
your voice, you feel like your voice is just taken away from you. And like, how do you defend yourself? These people have already created this image in their mind. And how do you get through that? And that's the thing, like going back, like we really need to learn how to like investigate a little bit, see the other side, because there is another side to the story. It's not always the first thing you see online.
Yeah.
I went on your show and talked about that.
Yep.
Like the internet is fake.
Yep.
I'm sorry to break that to you. So like we need to stop just believing everything we're seeing.
I haven't had one where, it was a smear campaign in a way that's like, probably to your level. But when I pastored the church in Michigan that we were both part of, one morning, Saturday morning, I was in my office at the church, and a guy texted me and said, hey, can we meet? I saw your car in the parking lot. I'm like, hey, if there's any way we could do it during the week, I'm trying to get a bunch of stuff done. I have a family party later.
Yeah.
If it's an emergency, I'll be there. And he's like, no problem. No worries. We'll just meet this week. I was like, okay, which was hard for me because I'm a people pleaser. Normally I'm like, yes, right now. I'll drop everything I'm doing
Yeah.
and whatever you need.
Yeah.
So that night on Facebook, somebody texts me and they're like, are you okay? I'm sorry. Somebody texts me and they're like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, what's wrong? And they're like, oh, you haven't seen Facebook. So that guy went on Facebook.
Did your heart drop?
I know. I was like, oh no.
no.
That guy went on Facebook and he's like, I have given years of my life to this church. And I have sat through my pastor's sermons and I've given money and he doesn't even take the time. I'm a struggling alcoholic and all I wanted to do was meet with him.
Wow.
And then the comments, like, he's like every other pastor. All he cares about is private jets. And, I mean, the comments were like, I mean, they just trashed me up and down. And our church was a little bit unique because we met in a movie theater and, we were not the, kind of conservative Lutheran Catholic church that town was used to. And I'm watching all these comments and I'm like, they don't even know you don't even know me. And so like at that point, do you go on and defend yourself and throw him under the bus? Like, actually, do you want me to provide the text message that showed you said it was okay? And so at that point I didn't defend myself. I didn't want to throw him under. At that level, he'd been thinking about something of angst towards me for a while. Multiple times I reached out to him and his wife, tried to meet. They unfriended me. And the problem is we didn't live in a big town. So you run into people. So anyways, been there. It's hard to take the high road, but it's so worth it.
The thing about that, because I with my rough childhood, I would go to my pastors all the time and think like, this is life or death. I need you right now. But I don't even know where I heard it, but someone had said that your problems did not get created overnight and they're not going to be fixed overnight. So no, you do not need to talk about it right that second. It's probably best if you cool down for a little bit, like go for a walk, go touch some grass.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I just still to this day, I'm like, wow, that is,
But you know what's funny is like I started looking up like smear campaigns and stuff. And one of the things I found is Roger Stone. He basically like created the smear campaign, and that's like him being a supporter of Trump. Like that's how he always gets Trump to win, is like he just smears the other side. And then I started watching like YouTube videos, and it's all about like smear campaigns with a narcissist is like a lot of them, what they talk about. And it's actually like what you're talking about, like situations more locally, like within even your own family, like dealing with a smear campaign. So I think it's interesting because like a lot more people have dealt with a smear campaign than they probably realize. But when you're public, it's just bigger.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
But regardless, it feels like big to you, even if it's happening. It's actually, honestly, it's worse when it happens locally, like in your family, your friends.
Yeah.
It hurts worse. Like things people say in my town is worse than when random people like on my TikTok say things like,
oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah. My childhood, I grew up in Detroit. My dad was my youth pastor at this Lutheran church in Detroit. And
let me interrupt because when people say Detroit, I say, for people that don't know, I'm like from Detroit, and people are like, whoa, okay, because I grew up 20 minutes north of Detroit.
Right.
So were you actually in Detroit or were you on the outskirts?
Yeah, that's great. I love that. No, I was actually in the city, 313, a couple miles away from 8 Mile. No, I love that. That's all right. I grew up in Detroit, but they grew up in Troy. Yeah. Farmington Hills. Berkeley.
So you were in the hood.
In the hood. And my dad was youth pastor, new pastor came. And one of the reasons I never wanted to be a pastor is because I came up upon a guy screaming at my dad once because he was allowing Black people into the church. Why would you allow those people into our church and the homeless people? Because we had homeless people right outside in the alley behind the church. And I remember I was 12 or 13, standing at the bottom of the step there on the top of the steps. And I just heard this man screaming so loudly at my dad. My whole childhood, people are like, you're going to be a pastor. And I'm like, there's no way. If that's how the church people mistreat each other. And unfortunately, a lot of times, Christians do shoot each other in the back the same way that non-Christians do. It's like we just have this way. But, each of those things teaches you a new level of resilience, a new level of, being able to help other people through it.
Yeah.
learning that it's not the end of the world. Like you talked about earlier, who's your faith rooted in? Who are you answering to? Who are you trying to please? If those things are healthy, then those moments, they're going to come because we're humans. We're able to walk through them with a little bit more. But my dad's whole family was on the leadership team in that church. And so you talk about hurt and pain.
Oh, wow.
Just awful. So they eventually kicked the pastor out, kicked my dad out. And I watched my parents walk through that pain of like, ooh, that family's not supposed to do that to you.
One day we'll talk about the church. Not today, though. Maybe.
I have some notes in my journal, so I'll be ready for that day.
Yeah. Because, everywhere you go, Republican Party, Democrat Party, church, whether, I don't know, whatever it is, whatever group of people, it's full of people.
Right.
And people are flawed and they're bullies and, but then you have good people. Like, you're going to find it everywhere you go. So that's what I'm saying. Like, just if you're a Republican and you really think half the country is full of far left lunatics and that they all want to castrate children, you're wrong. And if you're on the left and you think every Republican is far right, fascist, racist, that wants, to bring communism and have a dictator at the head and have President Trump run until the day he dies, you're wrong. It's just most people, 52% of people are independents. Okay. Most people are moderate. And there are like 5 to 10 really hot button topics. But other than those 5 to 10 things, we all actually agree on most things. Like, we all agree that we want to be safe. We all agree that we don't want our water poisoned. Like, we want to be able to just work a job. We don't want to have to work 3 different jobs just to survive. Like, we want good education. Like, we want all the same things. So it's just not realistic that all of these people, like, you can never associate with them.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Absolutely. That's powerful.
Let me ask you the tough one, because like kind of talked like going door to door, like what would you say to the guy? And you said, okay, ask the questions, stuff. Like, great. I love that. Like, always ask questions and really find out where their comments are coming from. What if you're dealing with this in your own family?
Oh boy.
Is it the same kind of layout? Like, ask questions and stuff? Like, if a family member is like, nope, I can't ever come over to your house. I found out that you have a Trump flag, or you want AOC to be president next. I could never talk to you again. Like, how do you even touch that?
Wow. That's a tough one. That's a really tough one. I think you have to dive way down deep and go, okay, is the relationship more important than their ideological political beliefs, and so if the relationship is more important, then okay, what steps am I willing to take? How far am I willing to go? Because we all have to have boundaries to protect ourselves, and you don't have to agree with everything. But if the family member that you're going to be in position with is going to keep putting you in harm's way, meaning they're going to keep spewing, unhealthy language at you, they're going to keep talking about you, saying sarcastic, and this is over time, okay, you might have to do the tough decision to say, hey, I've got to cut them out.
Yeah.
But if it's not to that level and it's worth it, then it's a heart-to-heart conversation to say, hey, can we meet halfway? Like, I treasure you, I value you, we're related, we're family, but it just feels like we can't ever get close because of, our beliefs. And so I think we can. So can we table the beliefs, and can I just ask you about yourself? What's your favorite? Well, what do you love about this? And what did this happen? And see if you can start there. And that would be the powerful thing. And then maybe even if you have to go to a place at family gatherings to say, hey, let's all stay family. I hate that I'm saying this, but I think it works sometimes, especially if there's that massive passion on both sides. Let's steer away from these top talking points.
Yeah.
And that might just be the adult thing to do.
Yeah. And it's funny because in my family, my mom, she's a legal resident, so she can't even vote, but she has her opinions and it's fine. I have one brother who doesn't vote. He is a citizen, doesn't vote. So I have issues with him there. Okay. I have another brother who's straight Democrat. And then, yeah, it's just like we're a whole mixed bag. I'm independent and my sister is just 18, so she's finding herself. But we're all different. And, we still can go to dinners and stuff, fight it out, and then we move on. I think it's an Italian thing, to be honest with you. Like, we're used to screaming at each other, and then we'll just move on. The first time my husband saw me and my mom scream at each other, he was like, oh my gosh, I would never be able to talk to my mom that way. And then next second, me and my mom are laughing together. Like, sometimes you just need to get it out.
Yep.
But then we're family and move on. Like, it's not life or death. Like, politics comes and goes.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have to.
But I get what you're saying, that, like, at a point, like, if they're constantly, like, calling you names and stuff because of what you're doing and, like,
Yeah.
like spewing hate, it's different if you're, like, willing to, like, have a debate, discussion about policy issues and stuff like that. But if it's constantly, like, a screaming match and, like, turns to bullying, like,
Yeah.
character assassination, if it turns to that, yeah, it's not probably worth it, you know?
Yeah, families are fascinating. I'm getting ready to step into daughter-in-law phase, and my daughter-in-law to be is wonderful. We love her. She's a gift. She's confident. She's sassy. Speaks her opinion. I love all of those things. For us, I'm sidebar. I did a behavior modification assessment not too long ago. One of my podcast guests is a brilliant researcher, and he's like, "Hey, I'd love to do this for you." It was a couple $1,000s. He did it for free. So he goes through it and he tries to determine how you behave in high stress situations, low stress situations. And so anyways, one of the things that came back was, I'm not a good listener.
Wow.
And you could say a lot to me, but that wrecked me because I care about communication. I've actually prided myself on,
Yeah.
I listen, I ask questions, and he's like, you're not, because what happens is intellectually, your process, my relational awareness is through the roof. I'm not like you who ace tests, who ace class. I was the exact opposite. Scored my age on the ACT. Like, if I had to get up in front of people and talk, got the A. But my relational awareness, according to him, and my mother probably, is through the roof. And so I'm processing at a speed that I'm like, I'm already seven times on the road. I'm saying a sarcastic comment in my head to everything that they said. There's a "that's what she said" joke. There's a this. I mean, it's amazing what's happening up here, and I try to keep it all here. But I work really hard at being a listener. He's like, you're not a good listener because of all those things. And I ask a lot of questions. I'm cynical sometimes. And so one night, we're all sitting around because we do family night dinner together at my parents', all the kids at my parents'. It's wonderful. And my new daughter-in-law, she got on the other end of some of my question asking. And I just didn't pay attention to, okay, you went too far. And later that night, my son, he's just like, hey, you got to remember, not everybody's used to, like, for me, it's like, yeah, I'm going to answer when people ask me, I don't need to process. I'm just going to, here it comes. So that was my first step into, like,
Wow.
like I gotta process. I gotta have better patience with those things. And, my kids are used to it because that's the childhood. Like, I just peppered them with questions. They peppered me like,
Yeah.
let's break this down. Let's figure it out. So yeah, family is really difficult, especially in that mode. It's like, now for me, I have some family members who use their Facebook page as a way to just promote their political views on the far left. And it just got to a point where I'm like, I just can't anymore. Like, I can't. So it's unfollowed. I love them, but I'm like, I absolutely can't. And I honestly, like, for me in my house, my social media, I don't know if any good, healthy conversation can happen in comments. So, I've seen some maybe, but it's really,
That's a good question. I mean,
it's really difficult.
it's like, think about that. That is a great question. Have you ever, like, can you name a comment section where you're like, wow, that really changed my life. That changed my perspective. Like, wow.
No, because I miss the tone. I miss the body language.
Yep.
I misinterpret the exclamation points or the lack of
Yeah.
punctuation
Yep.
or the capital letters. I misinterpret you.
Wow.
Like, how do you have a conversation in just text?
So if it's not, if we can't, like, sit here and think back to a comment section that's, like, changed our life, then maybe we need to stop putting so much value in comment sections, huh?
Yeah. Except though, it gets our dopamine because we're like, oh, they're commenting. Oh, they're liking. And then we're like, oh, shoot, they're commenting.
Oh, no.
But I mean, it begs the question, right? Like if real transformation in a conversation, like I communicate so I can transform, I can help other people transform. I want to build a bridge. I want to connect. I want them to leave after a conversation with me and go, oh, he really cares about me. Or, I don't want to ever miss that moment where I have a chance to speak something into them.
Yeah.
Because we miss it all the time.
Yeah.
We have moments where, like, in our head, Christians would say it's the Holy Spirit, non-Christians would say it's your soul or whatever. We have these moments where it's like, okay, tell Anna what she means to you, and then we convince ourselves, no, she knows. I don't need to do that. She knows, and we miss all of those type of moments.
Yeah.
But like with my communication, I want to create those moments where it's like I don't want to miss that opportunity. I lost my grandmother in a car accident in Sterling Heights, living in the Quinder. I was 18 years old, got the phone call. Most of my family found out about it from the Detroit News.
Wow.
Like I still remember the last day I hugged her. I don't want those type of my kids to go off. My oldest went to Miami this weekend. Car accidents happen all the time. Like I don't want to miss those opportunities where I'm speaking those words to where I could be building into them or believing them. I'm in coaching relationships with lots of leaders. And so, I want to say challenging things. Like we can either use words that harm or help. And if your words harm, they humiliate, they assume, because we just assume stuff all the time.
Yep.
We just jump to it, we ridicule, or we manipulate, we harm. Okay. Those are words that are going to leave a mark and are going to be destructive, and they just lowered your influence. But if we use words that help, words that are honest words aren't always the awesomest to get, but at least they're honest, especially when they're based in the truth.
Yep.
If we encourage them, we're always looking for ways of like, hey, you did, do your best today, but man, you gave it such a great effort, whatever the encouragement is. Loving. Loving is just being others focused. So supporting lifting them up, or pivotal. Like, are you saying challenging words to people? Like, I need challenging words. I need people to say like, hey, like you need to step up your game, or this needs to be better. This when harm or help, like you get that every time. Pick help, pick words that help. It's powerful things will happen, and you'll see your leadership influence just continue to be amplified and increase.
I just really think, like, as you're speaking, it's really just making me think, like, really think about the things that are important in life. Like, what battles are worth facing? In your family, in your friends, those battles are probably worth facing until a certain point. Like we talked about, like, you got to have healthy boundaries. But are those battles worth it for every single person you see online? Every single comment? Probably not. Maybe a little bit. You can just do a first comment or something saying, hey, did you think about this? Like, ask those questions and stuff. Yeah, I really think that we need to pick our battles. And I just, by the way, I don't really do notes or anything. When I was on your show, you did notes, outline, like everything's organized. I am not. We just sat down and hit record. And
awesome.
I think this is really beautiful how this kind of came back around. But let me ask you this to kind of close out. If there was one thing that you wanted people to know, what would be that one thing?
That's good. That's so good. Especially when it comes to your communication. I was training a group of bank tellers a year ago, and I kept referring to them as leaders. And a woman raised her hand and said, "You keep calling us leaders. I'm just a bank teller." And those words haunted me. And I looked at her and I'm like, wait a minute. Do you have influence in your family? Well, of course. Do you have influence in your kids' school? Of course. Do you have influence with your customers? Of course. Then guess what? You're a leader. And so step into that. Like every single day, step into, now as a leader, do I want to communicate with people? So I want to breathe life into them. I want to be the reason why they strive for something new, the reason why they attempt something, the reason why they feel encouraged. Or do I want to speak at them? I want to suck the life out of them. I want to tear them down. If that's your answer, then you probably have some deeper things to figure out with your life. But for the average listener who says, yes, I want to step into leading in a successful way, in the way that I've been created, and make the decision every single day to speak with people. And I guarantee you, the influence that you have with your family, with your workplace, with your neighborhood, it's going to continue to increase. And the benefits that are going to come from that are going to amaze you over the long run.
And if you're in it for politics, then speaking with people is going to get more people on your side. Because guess what? Republicans and Democrats cannot win elections with just their current base.
Absolutely.
Like, most people are independent, so you have to speak to people outside your bubble if you want to win elections. So not only is it just good for your soul, but it's good for elections.
And if you are a politician and you need a coach, I would love to be able to help you, because that would
be incredible. More people learning how to speak with people and not at them. Oh, I've been to so many political events, and that would be such a huge help. Jason, where can people find you?
Oh, wow. Well, if you go to my website, speakwithpeople.com, that has all of our information. You can follow me on socials, Jason Raitz, Raitz. You can go to my YouTube channel, Jason Raitz Speaker. That's where we have a podcast, the Speak with People podcast. So if you Google me, you'll find all of the different things.
And I will put it all in the show.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much
This was
for
incredible.
coming on. And I will see you guys all next week.